Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
And what is up, Mets fans? Welcome to the stream. First and foremost, I hope that you and your family had a wonderful Thanksgiving. Happy holidays to all the great Mets fans out there. But we are getting closer and closer to 2026. This offseason feels like it has just been grinded to a halt here over the last couple of weeks here. But finally, just little inklings of news related to the orange and blue here, as we heard a little bit about the Mets' interest in starting pitcher free agent Framber Valdez. We've heard a little bit more about what Boston is seeking for in a potential Jarren Duran trade. So we're going to talk about those things. It is an open forum, though. Just here to chat with you, Mets fans, take some questions, get a little back and forth, kind of gauge the temperature on how we are feeling as a fan base about this team right now. And it is probably about as volatile among this fan base as I can remember, honestly, in years. Comparing it, maybe the closest time around the 2008, 2009 era, when the Mets, of course, collapsed in back-to-back years in 07, 08, and then with the firing of Willie Randolph and Jerry Manuel taking over and all the craziness that ensued in those early 2010 years. So this has been a crazy time for the Mets, no doubt about it, but let's talk about it here. Welcome to the stream, guys. I'm Tony Metro. You already know that. I do daily Mets content here on YouTube. If you're watching on Twitter, I will not see you messaging me on there, but hope you enjoyed anyway. You could also just go to YouTube, and that's where you could chime in the chat. But daily Mets content here, keep you up to date on all the latest things Mets related all winter long. So be sure to hit that subscribe button there on YouTube. We are so close to hitting that goal of 4K subscribers by the end of 2025. We got about 5 days left, and we are about 100 away. So if you're not already subscribed, go smash that button right now. Leave this video a like. That really helps as well. I appreciate it. But share this with the Mets fan in your life. Share it with a baseball fan in your life. Not all Mets related. We do everything Major League Baseball here, and it's fun to connect with you guys. So appreciate y'all tuning in. Let's go to the chat right away. AJ Arju, what's up? He says, let's get it. How you doing, man? Welcome to the stream. Appreciate you being here, dude. Bobby Baseball, hope you had a great Christmas. Tony, thank you, Bobby. It was a great time. As you guys can see, I am not in my normal studio here this week, as I've mentioned many times, visiting some family here this week. So temporary digs for right now. And you know what? Honestly, I think we kind of nailed it. I think, considering the circumstances, that we're doing okay. But it was a really nice Christmas, and I hope that you enjoyed it with your family as well, Bobby. What is going on, ARJ? Feels incomplete right now. I don't mind the direction. I like the thought of starting new. Opening day will be interesting, but I feel like we just aren't there yet. 100%. You're not wrong about that at all. Look, we all want to scream and, throw a fit about what has happened so far with this Mets offseason. Pete Alonso gone. Edwin Diaz gone. Brandon Nimmo traded. Jeff McNeil traded. I don't think anybody's really losing sleep over that one, right? But it's the start of a new era of Mets baseball in Queens. And yeah, to this point, doesn't really add up to what they're trying to do at this point. You acquire a 36-year-old second baseman. Yeah, great. Marcus Semion's a Gold Glover there, but you're paying him for the next 3 years at $25 million a pop, something like that. So we're waiting to see what happens on the other side of that door, the other side behind the curtain, right? It's like you could either have what's in this box or behind the curtain over there. And we're still waiting to see what's behind the curtain right now. And so that's kind of what we're going to get into today. Don't know if anything we discuss here regarding Framber Valdez or Jarren Duran is actually going to come to fruition or not, but that's what we do here on this channel. We just take what we hear from the insiders that do have information, and we try to put some critical thinking on it, see if it would be a good or not a good fit for the Mets. So we will see. But yes, definitely not a complete offseason to this point. I'm 100% there with you. Stanley, what's up? What other trades will the Mets make? Man, it's tough. It really is tough because, they're in a position right now where they still need to fill out left field. You could listen to what the Mets say and believe that they believe that Jorge Polanco is going to be the team's first baseman. I personally am not buying that. I think that's craziness. So there's a couple different avenues that they can go, and all without, of course, mentioning starting pitching, which coming into the offseason, we thought was what they were going to drill down, getting a frontline starting pitcher, maybe even a number 2 behind that, not putting that pressure on Nolan McLean to have to go out in what will actually be his official rookie year in 2026. Mets and have to feel like he has to carry this rotation. But to this point, there has been no movement on the starting pitcher front. The Mets rotation is exactly how it was when the season ended on September 29th of this year. So there's a lot of different areas that they can go. I wouldn't be surprised to see them try to get in the starting pitcher market, but as we will touch on later in this stream, the starting pitcher market is very, very expensive right now. So it's starting to look dimmer, what's the word? Yeah, more and more less likely that the Mets are going to be able to pull off one of those big time trades like for a Freddie Peralta or for Joe Ryan, who is all but off the market at this point, and Tariq Skubal, who in my opinion was always a pipe dream anyway. So I can't answer for you right now, but let's get into this and we'll see if we can kind of come up with some answers ourselves. By the way, guys, if you do want to call into the show, Discord is up. So all you got to do is go to the link in the video description on my YouTube. Go to my Discord. That'll put you in the waiting room. And then when I'm ready to take live calls, I'll pop you into the show. Want to hear from you guys. Want to hear your feelings on the Mets offseason so far. So appreciate that. Tim Frith, Merry after Christmas. Merry after Christmas to you, Timothy. Appreciate you tuning in. Joe Satter, Merry Christmas. Tony, Flushing Flash. I like that. That's a nice little nickname right now. Joe, I appreciate you being in here as well. So let's do this. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to share my screen with you guys. So we got a couple little interesting nuggets. And look, I mean, it's the week of Christmas. Obviously, this has been a pretty slow time in the offseason historically, and not even just specifically this year for the Mets or for all of baseball, but this is how it always is, right? But we got to try and keep it interesting here on the stream, right? Daily Mets content. I got to think of something here. So we did get a couple little interesting breadcrumbs along the way here this week. And one of them was coming from Jeff Passan, who wrote on Threads, who actually uses Threads, right? But apparently Jeff Passan does. So he replied to a Mets fan that simply asked him, what the F? Mets? What the F? So Jeff Passan ended up replying with this, and it kind of made a lot of Mets fans' ears perk up. So Jeff said what is highlighted right here, saying, I've written this, but I'll say it again. It's okay to be bad. It's okay to have a bad clubhouse. It's not okay to have both. This is almost a wholesale jettisoning, and now David Stearns has a chance to rebuild in his vision. Historically, it has been very disciplined and very practical, not very splashy. And while I absolutely expect the Mets to get a big free agent, make a big trade, or both, I don't inherently dislike a team taking its time. So the big thing to key in on that statement is really the final sentence right here. I absolutely expect the Mets to get a big free agent, make a big trade, or both. And of course, like I said, our ears perked up, right? You know, antennas go up. We are thinking big move, big trade, Mets. Like, yeah, we tell us all about it, Jeff. Of course, like I said, Christmas week, New Year's coming up. May not actually happen, but this is encouraging to hear, especially after what seemed like was just going to be kind of a lackluster offseason. I'm not saying that the Mets are completely out on Kyle Tucker or Cody Bellinger or Bo Bichette, though I think that one's very unlikely. But the way this offseason has gone with filling Simeon in at second base, making Jorge Polanco, I guess, the first baseman for the foreseeable future, at least for the moment, didn't seem like there were a lot of ways they could still piece together the rest of this roster. But this report here from Jeff Passan was obviously very encouraging to hear him say that on Threads. And that brings me to the next piece that we're going to take a look at here. And this was a report from Jon Heyman. And so Jon Heyman said in one of his New York Post Plus articles that the Mets are, quote, among the teams who have met with free agent starting pitcher Framber Valdez. Heyman reports that the Giants and Orioles have also met with Valdez. The Mets could do long deals for star pitchers in occasional circumstances, such as with Yoshinobu Yamamoto, but generally prefer to avoid them. So, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. This was really a nothing burger kind of report from Jon Heyman. I respect the work that he does, but he really didn't tell us anything that we didn't already know. We know that the Mets have already met with Framber Valdez. We already know that. We know that Valdez is seeking anywhere from a 6 to 7 year deal in the neighborhood of $160 to $190 million, which I have said many times I am staunchly against. 32 years old, workhorse, no doubt about it, has been one of the best top starting pitchers in baseball for a number of years now. But the problem is, and we all know this as fans, you want to be paying guys for what you believe they are going to be during the life of that contract, not for what they used to do, not for past performance, not for what they did for the Astros in the case of Framber Valdez. And so for me, I have had a lot of pause on going on an extension, or I'm sorry, on going to try and sign Framber Valdez based on what insiders are reporting that he's seeking this offseason. So let's take a look at him real quick. I'll go back to the chat here and see what's going on here. Hopefully YouTube is holding up over here. Mike has Mets 62. I think Tatsuya Amai and Kazuma Akamoto will sign with the Mets. Hey, from your lips to God's ears, man, I am totally about that. I think that is the simplest, easiest path forward for the Mets to try and just round out this roster. I don't think they'd be completely done yet there, but you're not talking about giving up any type of compensation for a qualifying offer free agent. You are not trading away prospects to improve the rotation or fill the need at first base. I have said it so many times. Kaz Akamoto is a brilliant fit for the Mets right now. You put him at first base. He has won a Gold Glove at both first and at third during his career in Japan. He is profiling as a maybe 20 to 25 home run bat. He was consistently a 30 home run bat in Japan, but I could see him being closer to the 20-25 home run bat range in the MLB, depending on, of course, on how he adjusts to big league pitching. But just the Gold Glove defense at first base alone, you take away the idea of Jorge Polanco having to learn first. You just let him be the designated hitter, rove around the right side of the infield on occasion. I think Kaz Akamoto is such a perfect fit for the Mets. And in the case of Tatsuya Amai, look, there is a little bit of risk. There's inherent risk with any pitcher that, or any player really, that you're signing from overseas. But everything that I have heard about him and seen from him has been really encouraging. We had Will Salmon on as a guest a couple of weeks ago. I asked him about Amai, if him being 27 years old would lend itself more likely to the Mets being willing to give him a long-term deal. He didn't say necessarily, but he also didn't say no. He said that scouts alike all across the league are all very, very unsure of exactly what he's going to be in the big leagues. And so I understand there being some pause, some hesitancy on the part of general managers around the league, not just David Stearns, being willing to give him that type of long-term deal that he's likely seeking here as he comes over from Japan. Let's see. Vinny Brasco. Hey, pal. What's up, Vinny? How you doing? Bracco. Sorry, not Brasco. Vinny, what's going on? He says, I'm friendly with the Mets exec, 90% politics. Lindor's wife, very lib with social justice. Nimmo had words. Yeah, look, I'm not going to get into any of that. I did see that there's some news regarding Katia Lindor, and we heard about the fallout between Lindor and Brandon Nimmo last season, supposedly having something to do with politics. Look, I don't pretend to know enough about politics to want to go on about it, but look, we keep hearing these things, and so there has to be, in my opinion, some truth behind it, but I will not go any further than that. But yeah, it is definitely very strange what is going on in that Mets clubhouse, or what was going on in that Mets clubhouse, and we'll see if they purged it. We'll see if they ended up nipping it in the bud at this point. But clearly something was amiss, and I think in the end, they continued to win and played like they did in 2024 and went to Game 6 of the NLCS here, this would be a non-story. But obviously they continued losing down the stretch here in 25, had the epic collapse to miss the playoffs. So that's why it's a story now. So I don't know if that was the reason. It's kind of the chicken or the egg thing. Did they not play well because they didn't get along in the clubhouse, or did all these things start to come out because they weren't playing well, right? Like, where, hey, tough loss here, guy didn't hustle on a play, didn't hit the cutoff man on another throw, and all of a sudden you start getting personal with each other, talking about the politics in this case and whatnot. So I don't know, and that's the furthest I'll go into it, but I'm not denying that clearly there was something very amiss in that clubhouse. But back to Framber Valdez. Look, I like the idea of Framber Valdez for 2026. I do. He has had a really strong career with the Astros. Like I said, has been one of the top pitchers in baseball for a number of years now. But do you want to go that distance on a guy to pay for his past performance? Do you want to go that distance on a guy that is 32 years old? He just turned 32. So he is entering his age 32 season, but he came into this year seeking at least a 7-year contract this winter. And I am not one to want to pay a starting pitcher into his late 30s, very nearly 40-year-old season. Not too many of those guys still hanging around, right? So I personally am very wary about handing Framber Valdez the deal that he wants. Phil DeLuca, what's up, man? He says, hi, good to hear from you, Phil. Appreciate you tuning in. Thank you so much. Guys, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you are not already. So close to that goal of 4K subs by the end of 2025. 5 days left. So share this with a Mets fan in your life. Share it with friends. Subscribe if you're not already. Really appreciate you guys being here. But look, it was a really solid year for Valdez in 2025. 3.66 earned run average, over 31 starts, 192 innings. I mean, the dude goes out there every year and he's going to give you quality stuff, right? So let's just actually take a 4-year sample size going back to 2022. So over the last 4 seasons, he's made 121 starts. So basically exactly 30 starts every year. Has a 3.21 earned run average over that time. His FIP is 3.29, so it's not like this is smoke and mirrors or anything. He is pitching just as well as the underlying metrics would suggest, including that ERA plus of 127, a very, nice, tidy 1.15 whip. The dude keeps the ball in the ballpark, only 0.7 home runs per 9, doesn't walk too many guys. Guys, like I said, Framber Valdez, if he was 28 years old, I would give him an 8 or 9 year contract right now. I wouldn't even bat an eye. I'd even go the full 10 years and you know what? Bite the bullet on the last 2-3 years of that contract. Hopefully you win a World Series or 2 with him when he's still in his prime. I am concerned that Valdez's prime is already behind him now. And I am not in the interest or the market of paying a guy to pitch his age 32 through 38-year-old seasons, $30+ million a year, and watching him become Johnny Cueto 2.0. And it's funny we bring this up because I'm just going to show you guys this is the first thing that comes to my mind every time we hear about Framber Valdez being brought up. Johnny Cueto, you guys of course all remember Johnny Cueto, right? I mean, absolutely chucked against the Mets in the 2015 World Series. I know we don't want to talk about it, but we kind of have to right here, right now, right? So Johnny Cueto, it's just really quality, solid starting pitcher for the majority of his career. Obviously started with Cincinnati, then was pitching got traded to Kansas City in the middle of that 2015 season. Of course, we don't want to talk much more about it. But after that, at age 30, signed a mega 6-year, $130 million contract with the Giants. And this is back in 2015. This is 10 years ago. Money was still obviously very good in baseball at that time, but not as good as it is right now or what the market is set at this very moment for free agent starting pitchers, right? Hey, Phil, welcome to the Keith Hernandez level. Appreciate you logging in there, man, and signing up. That's awesome, man. I appreciate you coming on. By the way, guys, I do have a super chat thing going right now. So if we get 10 super chats here, I'm going to pick one lucky donator from the super chat to co-host a live stream with me in the future. So if you give a super chat, if we get to 10 super chats, I will pick one of you guys to co-host one of these future live streams right here with me. So you guys get on that. Really appreciate it. Awesome to have you guys all in here right now. But going back to this, look, I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but just take a look at this. Johnny Cueto signs his 6-year, $130 million deal with the Giants after having a tremendous career in which he had actually pitched. Let's get the total number on it. 1,420 innings from 2008 when he debuted through the end of the 2015 season, not including postseason innings for Johnny Cueto. So 1,420 innings before he signed that deal with the Giants. He signs a 6-year deal for $130 million. Has a really, really brilliant 2016 season with them. And just take a look at everything after that. So 2017, it balloons up to 4.52. 2018, he only makes 9 starts. 2019, only makes 4 starts. Only 12 starts in 2020. Obviously, that was the shortened season. So that was actually a little bit of a bounce back in terms of actually being available, but a 5.40 earned run average. And so he ends up finishing his career with the Giants. They don't even actually complete the contract with them. I think he was actually just outright released by San Francisco. But over that, what should have been a 6-year contract, he ends up making just 103 starts and finishes with a 3.81 earned run average, which is obviously skewed because of that tremendous first season that he had with them in 2016, where he tossed to a 2.79 ERA over 219 innings. So look, again, I don't want to go over ancient history with you guys, but every time I think of Framber Valdez, I think of Johnny Cueto. And it's just this idea of trying to sign a guy based on his past performance for the next 6-7 years in the middle of his 30s. And it terrifies me. And I'm sure David Stearns is kind of going through the same situation right now. Look, we need a frontline starting pitcher, but is this the one that we really want to pull the trigger on? And he's stuck between a rock and a hard place, because it's like, well, do you want to go out and trade for somebody? Because like I said before, that starting pitcher market, as far as the trade market, is insanely expensive, according to all of the insiders right now. So we're going to touch on that a little bit more. But yeah, it has been a really tough offseason for David Stearns, no doubt about it, in terms of trying to find some starting pitcher help. But look, that being said, let's take a look. Overall, for his entire career, Framber Valdez has only thrown 1,080 innings. So when we compared it to Cueto from 2008 to 2015, he had 1,400 innings. So basically over the last 7 years, so almost the same amount of seasons, he has pitched about 400 less innings than Cueto did. But on the flip side of that, Framber Valdez is also 2 years older than Johnny Cueto was when he signed that deal with San Francisco. He was 30 years old at that time. But look, we've seen this dozens of times over our life. If you're a baseball fan, you've seen starting pitchers that come out, have a great career with one team, they finish strong, they become free agents, they sign elsewhere for the mega deal, and they just fizzle out. They flame out, and they're never the same again. The team's left holding the bag. They're going on the injured list. They might need Tommy John. I mean, a perfect example just this past season, Corbin Burns going to Arizona, wanted to sign with the Diamondbacks, gets the big deal from them. Poof. Tommy John surgery in the blink of an eye. Going to basically miss all of 2026 after missing virtually all of this past season as well. And who knows if he'll ever be the same on the wrong side of 30. And so it goes against everything that David Stearns has pretty much preached since getting here. Locking up old starting pitching is just not in David Stearns' DNA. So if I'm being frank, I'm actually really surprised that David Stearns, or really that the Mets, are even connected to Framber Valdez at this point. You know, they took that initial meeting. Like I said, that's kind of old news. We already knew that they had met with Framber earlier in the offseason, not terribly long ago, but we haven't really heard any, movement on it. We did see that it was a couple other teams also involved. I believe it was, here we go, the Orioles and the Giants. So the Orioles looking to get back on their horse, right, and get back to competing. And then the San Francisco Giants, who are, always trying to land a big fish, but seem to struggle doing that. Of course, they got Willie Adames last offseason, but look, if those are the only other two teams, I feel like the Orioles are much more desperate than the Mets. And I actually would predict Valdez to go and sign with them. I don't know. I could be wrong, but that's how I'm feeling about it. But Kevin Fox says, is Trevor Bauer still around? Trevor Bauer is pitching in Japan. He's getting lit up by the Nippon League. And I don't even know if it's the Nippon League, but he's somewhere overseas. And he's still making YouTube videos, so if you want to go check him out there. But no, Trevor Bauer is not a candidate to be coming back to the big leagues anytime soon, I don't believe. He is enjoying himself doing YouTube, I guess. Look, I'll be honest. I think he got a raw deal considering everything that happened in that situation. I won't say anything more about it, but Trevor Bauer is definitely not an option at this point anymore. No movement on anything. Phil is right. There's really nothing going on, but it was interesting to hear that the Mets did actually get connected to Framber Valdez again in that report from John Heyman. But just real quick, taking a look at his StatCast. Look, guy's a ground ball pitcher. You love to see that. He's a sinker baller. He throws it 45% of the time. And he gets it, he's in the 97th percentile in terms of ground ball percentage. You love that. 76th percentile in barrel percentage. So misses barrels, which is obviously really good as well. And then in terms of his fastball, it's still elite, 91st percentile. He gets a grade of 12 on that one. So, good numbers here from Valdez. But, it's just a concern of how much longer is that going to last? And if the Mets were in a position right this year where I believe they were just a frontline starting pitcher with postseason experience away from winning the World Series, I would say absolutely sign this guy. Let's get it done. I will trade 4 or 5 bad years of this dude's contract on the tail end just to win one World Series for the Mets. The first since 1986, the first since I've been walking this earth. Absolutely. But I don't think the Mets are just a frontline starting pitcher away from winning the World Series. Do you? Because I think we still have an issue in left field until proven otherwise. Yeah, Carson Bench may come up with all of the hype and pedigree in the world of a top prospect, but until we see him on that big league field, we don't truly know. We saw a little bit of Nolan McLean. That was really, really exciting, but it was only 8 career starts. Can we really, really put it in this guy's hands to carry them, this entire rotation, which, by the way, was mauled by injuries last year in terms of the veterans, right? So I think they need a lot of things. And I think going on a big long-term deal for a pitcher that is entering, not even just entering, is already in his early 30s is probably not the best way to try and build the rest of this roster. But we will see, and I might change my tune when they do sign this guy if I see the final numbers. But my current prediction would be that the Mets are not going to land Framber Valdez. I would actually say the Orioles or the Giants are probably going to be the team that lands him. That's just my opinion at the moment right now. Let's go to the chat real quick. Bobby Baseball, would you give 4 years, 25 average annual value for Framber Valdez? Absolutely. I mean, that's a 4-year, $100 million deal. Absolutely. Unfortunately, Framber Valdez is not going to sign for that. Like I said, was seeking a 7-year, somewhere between $150 to $190 million deal. Now, a lot of that is posturing from his agent, from his camp, right? Trying to basically set the standard. Like, this is what we're looking for. We know we're not going to get it, but come back to us now with your, retort, with your counter. And he knows he's probably going to land somewhere closer to 5 or 6 years. I would say $150 million. Even that, I think, is maybe too rich for the Mets blood. But if it came between giving that deal to Framber, 5 years, $150 million, or to Tatsuya Amai, I might go with Framber in that case, despite the advanced age, despite being 5 years older than Tatsuya Amai. At least I know that Framber Valdez has been one of the top pitchers in Major League Baseball for a number of years now, right? So I would take the more sure thing, even though there is some risk attached to him being a little bit older and the potential for him falling off the cliff sooner than later, than in the case of Tatsuya Amai, where scouts don't really know what he is. And yes, he's 27 years old and he could come up and be an excellent starter for a number of years. He could also be the next, who was the guy that was pitching for the Yankees? Somebody help me out here. The guy that they signed back in like the 90s. Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. I can't think of it right now. You guys are getting me right in the chat. Someone help me out. Anyway, the case in point is, these players come from overseas, always have inherent risk. Every contract does in baseball, right? Even for Framber Valdez, but at least with him, I know that he is pitched at an elite level on the big league stage. So I would actually probably go in that direction. Bobby Baseball, tough to do more than 4 with his age. I agree. And again, he is basically trying to set the table, and that's why him and his camp have said, we're starting at 7 years. We want 150 to 180, somewhere in that range. And they know they're probably not going to get that unless a desperate team came around, but more likely to get somewhere in the 5-year range. Maybe Baltimore does that for him. Maybe even the Giants would do that for him. But I can't see the Mets being willing to go to 5 years for Framber Valdez. So I totally agree with you, Bobby. Kevin Fox says, yeah, no, I think Bauer is in Japan still. He could, he was pitching in Mexico as well for a little bit there. But not someone that I think any MLB team has any interest in at this point. Not only because of course, his persona and all the issues that he had a couple years ago while with the Dodgers, but I mean, from everything I've seen, he's getting lit up in every clip I ever see of him pitching overseas. So I don't know if Bauer's got it anymore, to be honest with you. But Keegan Pope, let's see, besides like Valdez and Amai, what other options are there? All right, well, that's a good question. And so before we go into, sorry, I forgot, I usually have my mic sitting right here next to me, but obviously not the case here in my makeshift studio this week. But let's do this. Since there's not too many other options available, or maybe we don't think that Framber Valdez is a legitimate option here. Let me just type this in as I try to get over here. And there we go. All right, here we go. MLB free agents, according to Spotrac. So we know Dylan Cease set the market for the free agent starting pitchers this year, 7 years, $210 million with the Blue Jays, right? We have seen a couple of other names also come off the board. So as far as starting pitchers, let's take a look at who is still available. We got King also signing with the Padres on that deal that we know with the opt-outs. And, I didn't fault the Mets for not getting him on that deal because it just seemed like he wanted to go to a place where he's comfortable already in San Diego. It's essentially a 1-year deal where he has, the safety net of those 2 opt-ins for the following 2 years after that. But other than that, the Mets have opportunities with a whole lot of mid-starting pitching. Let's just be honest about it. You got Jordan Montgomery available. You got Nick Martinez, Chris Bassett, Lucas Giolito. Framber, of course, we've talked about already. yeah, it's not a very appealing starting pitcher market right now. Ranger Suarez is still out there, and I've said it before, I really do like Ranger Suarez, but at 30 years old, for what he's looking for, coming off a really great season with Philly, I just feel like the Mets are in need of a legitimate top of the rotation guy. And as much as I do like Suarez, I think he's basically got a ceiling of a 3. Some days he will pitch like an ace, no doubt about it, and I don't think he'll ever pitch worse than a mediocre number 3, but he's pretty much going to be that solid, consistent 3.4, 3.5 earned run average kind of guy that's going to go give you 5 or 6 innings. Yes, that's nice. The Mets definitely could have used that last year, but they definitely need a frontline starting pitcher this offseason. So I don't think they're going to show much interest in Ranger Suarez, if you ask me. Let me go back to the chat. Felix flings Frisbee's Hideki Arabu. Thank you. That is the name I was trying to think of when talking about Tatsuya Amai. Look, could come out and be a total stud. Could also turn into Hideki Arabu, who signed with the Yankees. That guy obviously had some personal demons, unfortunately, that he was dealing with. And I think that was just as big of an issue for him coming over, more so than his actual talent translating to the big leagues. But yeah, kind of a sad story there on Hideki Arabu. But yes, thank you for reminding me the name. I could not think of it. Thank you so much, Felix. Let's see. Phil DeLuca, we have to make a trade for a starter and back end of the pen. Yeah. Who do you think for the pen? Because we saw Pete Fairbanks come off the board here this week. He signed with the Miami Marlins. If you saw my tweet, it was, can't wait to see Pete Fairbanks pitch till 1.13 ERA against the Mets in 12 appearances this year before they trade him to the Dodgers, because that's exactly how that's going to go, right? But Pete Fairbanks is off the board. Obviously, the Mets have added Devin Williams and added Luke Weaver, but in the process also lost Edwin Diaz. So I like the bullpen, but I do not think it's complete by any means. And do not try to convince me that AJ Minter coming off a torn lat is going to be fine, and that coming off of Tommy John surgery, as fantastic as he was last year, that Brooks Raley is going to just be perfectly fine as well. You can't convince me of those things, okay? Mets fans, we've done this many times before. If the bullpen can just stay healthy, it's going to be a real strength of this team. How many times have we said that before? And by May, or even earlier, sometimes in April, the biggest piece of the bullpen goes down. The biggest lead to the closer goes down with a season-ending injury. I have seen this movie dozens and dozens of times. Now, there are some very interesting names in the Mets system that are going to be coming up this year. Dylan Ross is one of those. He was actually slated to potentially start the final game of the season down in Miami with the Mets' lives on the line. He did not appear in that game, but he is a very live arm that this Mets front office is very, very excited about. And I think he could factor his way into the opening day bullpen situation. You got a couple other guys. Will Watson, a lot of people have looked at him as a future closer. So we all want to talk about Tong and Sprout and McLean, and obviously with Credence, because they are excellent prospects that we hope are going to be great big league pitchers. But there's even more names and depth in this Mets farm system, specifically in terms of arms that we don't even talk about. Jack Weniger, Will Watson, Dylan Ross, these 3 names I just mentioned as well are guys that Will Salmon, who's been on the show many times here with us, has said he is just enthralled about, and scouts are raving about them. We just don't have the hype on them yet because they're still kind of developing through that AA, early AAA kind of stage of their career. So I think some of it will be filled internally, but I definitely would like to have a more sure thing. So I'm with you there on trying to trade for one more bullpen arm, no doubt about it. As far as a starter, Phil, I don't know. It doesn't seem like Freddie Peralta is an option at this point. I think the Brewers would want to be blown away for him, and I get it. He's only due $8 million this year, but he's also a rental. He's a free agent after this season until he signs an extension, if he's even willing to do that. So I don't know how much I'd be willing to give away for Freddie Peralta if he's even available. So Milwaukee coming off an excellent regular season. Obviously, they flopped in the NLCS, but they're going to want to compete next year. So I think it would take a little bit of a mix of some prospects and some major league ready pieces to insert onto their roster right now. Tariq Skubal, I think just forget about it. They are looking for the moon. I think the Tigers need to come to grips with the reality that they either pull the trigger, trade him now at the deadline, or they lose him in free agency for nothing. And knowing the way that the Tigers operate, would not be surprised to see them fall flat on their face and lose him in free agency for absolutely nothing, because that's the Detroit Tigers, right? But Let's go back here. Hip hop. Let's see. Mets are not signing a top pitcher. They are not making a huge trade. Cody's the only major option. If not, this is the team they are going into 2026 with. They could still make the wild card. Yeah. I have been all in on Cody Bellinger this offseason, and I would think he, just like Okamoto, would fit this team really well, probably even better than Okamoto. The only thing Okamoto really has in his advantage is being right-handed. Right now, the Mets are a little left-handed heavy. Obviously, Bellinger's a lefty. I'm a little fearful of how Cody Bellinger's power would play at Citi Field. Obviously, the right center field gap has been an issue for a lot of lefties. You know, Soto didn't have any issue there last season, of course, as we know. You know, career high home runs in a single season for him. But I definitely would be concerned about that in the case of Cody Bellinger. So that is one little thing I'm worried about. And I do like the idea. The problem is that he is seeking a far more lucrative contract than I think any of us really could have predicted when the offseason began. I think a lot of the rumors were 4 to 5 years, 120 to 140 max, and that's pushing it. But now it's starting to sound like Cody Bellinger and Scott Boras are thinking big, and they want a 5 to 7 year deal for 160, 150 minimum. And I just don't know if that is going to be something that David Stearns is willing to do. I personally do believe, though, that even when Bellinger is unable to play the outfield at the same level that he does right now, you could move him to first base. Ryan Clifford may or may not still be on the Mets, 40-man roster by that point. And then at that point, you can actually just make Bellinger the designated hitter. So I think you get a lot of defensive versatility, a lot of flexibility by bringing in Bellinger. I think you get almost, if not as much, from signing a guy like Okamoto as well. So I think either of them really help solidify this lineup and this defense in their own unique kind of ways. Let's see. Hip hop. This is more about 27, not 2026. We'll see about that. Let's see what they do next. And like I said, the Passan report, he's expecting they either sign a big name, trade for a big splash, or both. Those were his words. So I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if Jeff Passan's expecting that and saying that, then we got to just kind of roll with the tide right now and see what comes out of all of this. Guys, be sure to leave this video a like. Really appreciate it. Daily Mets content here. You can follow me on all the other platforms as well. Some of you might be coming from TikTok or from Twitter or from Instagram, but links to all of those are in the description of this video down below. Again, if you want to call into the show, Discord is live and running. So you just go down to that link in my Discord to put you into the waiting room, and then I could drop you in. I want to hear your guys' thoughts. Bring the heat here on the show. Can't wait to hear from you guys. But most of all, of course, be sure to subscribe. We're so close to 4K subscribers. We're just about 100 away. The goal is to get it by the end of 2025. So we got 5 days left. Share this with the Mets fan in your life. Share this with the baseball fan in your life. You guys are awesome. Really appreciate y'all being here right now. So let's get back to it real quick to the chat, and then we're going to move on to our next little piece here of off-season news involving the Boston Red Sox and how maybe the Mets could find their way involving themselves into this little piece that we just learned about. Bobby says Fairbanks is a great player, but has a major issue in the cold weather. He can't feel his fingers. Probably want to stay in the warmer weather. Absolutely. So I don't know the exact name of what Fairbanks has diagnosed with, but essentially has issues in cold weather where his fingers go numb. I can't recall exactly what it is, but it probably would not have gone well for him in New York, obviously, between the early months of the season, March, April, even maybe the beginning of May, and then, of course, October baseball. If the Mets are fortunate enough to be playing there and find themselves there again, not someone that you could really put out there if that is an issue with him and being able to grip and throw the baseball. So, yes, Fairbanks was probably never a very likely destination for a Northeast team like the Mets or anyone else, Yankees, Phillies, Red Sox, right? But yeah, he's a very good reliever, and I would not be surprised to see him come back to haunt us as a member of the Marlins, at least while he's still there. He's on a 1-year deal. We'll see if the Marlins play as well as they did this season and whether or not he finishes the season with Miami. Let's see. Kevin Fox says key to the bullpen health is having starters who can pitch more than 4 to 5 innings. Mets should consider a 6-man rotation. Yeah, well, we have done that before, right? Pretty much since Senga came over in 2026, the Mets have been trying to use a 6-man rotation as much as they can. The problem is it seems somebody gets hurt. Sometimes it's Senga getting hurt, and it completely gets flipped on its head. But yeah, the Mets getting some length out of their rotation would go a long way toward helping their bullpen stay healthy. We heard Adam Ottavino say something, someone who has been serving as a guest panelist on SNY lately, that the Mets were that Ottavino basically communicated with his Mets teammates during his lone season playing for Carlos Mendoza in 2024 that they were being overused, that they were essentially being abused, I believe is the word that he used. Look, sometimes you have no choice as a manager to have to keep going to the well, but it's a double-edged sword because last year we were complaining about how he was punting games because he was going to Rico Garcia or Chris Davinsky in the 5th inning. Well, did you just want to use, AJ Minter every time in the 5th inning, or to use Brooks Raley or go to Reed Garrett? I mean, look what happened to Reed Garrett. He was so abused in the first 2 months of the year, and he was nails during that time, along with Huascar Brazoban, easily the 2 most trusted Mets relievers for the first 2.5 months of the season outside of Edwin Diaz, and they both ended up getting injured. Brazoban ended up having poor results. He got sent down, as we know. He had some injuries, and then of course Reed Garrett spent some time on the injured list, and now he's getting Tommy John surgery and he is out for all of 2026. So I think there is some credence to what Adam Ottavino was saying, but as a manager, sometimes you're just put into a tough position where you have to keep going to a guy that you can actually trust to help you keep a game closer, help you keep a lead, or you go to a guy like Rico Garcia or any of the other Uber driver relief pitchers that the Mets had on this roster throughout 2025, and then you're getting killed by the fans for punting on games. So they definitely need some length out of this rotation. I think David Peterson obviously kind of fizzled out and just lost some of his gas there toward the end of the season in his final, 8-9 starts or so, basically from August on. Clay Holmes hit a little bit of a bump in the middle of the season, hit a little bump of the road, and then really finished pretty strong. But, it remains to be seen what is Kodai Senga, what is Sean Manaea at this point. So, yeah, they definitely, I think, could use some new blood injected into that rotation in the hopes of getting some length out of those guys. Let's see, PRJ? I'm so blind, guys. Fairbanks had that corrected. I think it was Austin Hayes. No, it is Fairbanks that has that issue. I don't know if Austin Hayes also might have it, but I do believe... Oh, you're talking about Austin Hayes played left field with the Reds. That is correct. Yes, Austin Hayes was in left field with the Reds last year. But I didn't hear about Fairbanks having that corrected. I heard it was still an issue for him, at least according to the reports prior to him signing, and then even after he signed. So unless someone that wrote those articles wasn't privy to him having it corrected, I thought he did still have that issue. But nonetheless, not really an important topic anymore now that he is with the Marlins. But let's see. Hey, what's up, Stoney? How's it going, man? Brad Afternow, Miguel Andujar. All right. Miguel Andujar, nice little bench piece, right? Kind of a stone hands in terms of the glove, right? They put him out at left field. He started the season with the A's last year, got traded to Cincinnati. Always has been a great hitter since coming up with the Yankees, right? Has been an excellent hitter for the most part, but just doesn't have a position. And honestly, I feel like the Mets have enough guys on this roster right now that don't have a position, between Mark Vientos, Ronnie Mauricio. We don't even truly know where he is at this point. Part of that because his bat just hasn't played up at this point yet. Luis Angel Acuna, he's kind of that rover defensive infielder, around the infield, but can play a little center field. So as much as I like Andujar's bat, just not so sure that he is someone that I want to try to bring in when we already have so many guys on this roster with questions about their defensive abilities at the moment. Keegan says, what about Canning? Griffin Canning, obviously the ruptured Achilles last year. I think that happened in June. I'm going to be honest. I'm not interested in a reclamation project. I really appreciated Canning for being here on a minor league deal. Absolutely. Can't hurt, right? Just costs a little bit of money in a roster spot. I definitely would give Canning that opportunity, but not something that I'm going to get all hyped and juiced about. Who knows when he's actually coming back in terms of his rehab process. Obviously, it's not an arm injury, so hopefully it doesn't affect his ability to pitch. But, even last year, let's be honest, I think we were catching a little bit of lightning in a bottle with Canning, who was formerly a top prospect while with the Angels, but first 5 years of his career really did not go so well. But had a really nice two-plus month stretch with the Mets last year. And I think it's possible he could do that again. But again, it all has to do with, hey, where is he in the recovery of that ruptured Achilles? And is it something as a depth piece? All right, sure, I'll take a flyer on it. But there needs to be a lot more work done before I'd be feeling much better about this rotation. Let's see. My guess, Mets. I'd rather sign Max Kepler. Kepler's a free agent. I didn't even realize that. Hit 216 last year, says Paul Revere. Yeah, 691 OPS. I'm not into Kepler. I said he's a bad player during a stream after the Mets lost to the Phillies. I said, I can't believe you gave up a home run to Max friggin' Kepler. And all the Philly fans that were invading the stream were like, Max Kepler's a great player. What are you talking about? Max Kepler is garbage. Not good. Yeah, I do think that Vientos will be gone, Phil. I'm with you, but until proven otherwise, we got to roll with how this roster is right at this moment. I don't know what the trade would be, but you know what? That's actually kind of a perfect jumping off point now that we can get into our next topic, because maybe Mark Vientos could find himself in a trade to try and do this. Real quick, last one here. Stoney, do you see us making any more moves, Tony? Are we going to go with what we have and go to spring training with the moves we have right now? No, I definitely think the Mets are going to make more moves. I think they are going to sign one of the big position player or starting pitcher free agents out there. I think it could be Framber. I think it could be Bellinger. I think it could be Okamoto, or it could be Tatsuya Amai in the case of a starting pitcher. And I think they're going to make another big trade. I don't know what for, but I just named a couple of those guys with Vientos, with Acuna, with Luis Angel Acuna. There are a lot of guys out there that we just don't truly know where they belong on this roster right now. And if they could be packaged as part of a trade that helps the Mets improve in a different area, I think that David Stearns is basically turning over every stone right now with opposing teams to try to figure out how he can use that at his disposal, because there are more young guys coming up that David Stearns wants to see take the field at Citi Field this year. So yeah, I think there are going to be a couple of more moves. I definitely do not believe that this is going to be the roster that the Mets are going into 2026 with. Absolutely not. But speaking of which, maybe one of these trades, right? So we learned a little bit about what Boston is thinking, and we know that they have a bit of a surplus in the outfield, and we have discussed this name so many times, but we learned a little about what exactly Boston might be looking for Jarren Duran. So let's go over here. Duran, of course, we know, finished 8th in MVP voting in 2024, had a great season, had a WAR over 8. Really was looking like he was about to burst out as a perennial most valuable player candidate in the American League. You'd be crazy if you were Boston to let him go, have a repeat of the Mookie Betts situation where they traded him before the 2020 season to the Los Angeles Dodgers. But here we are, where Duran might find himself being the odd guy out, odd guy looking in, man on the outside looking in. You know the expression, the one on the outside looking in, that guy. Because they have a glut of outfielders. They have Rafael Sedan in center field, who is an electric defensive center fielder, burner on the base pass. You got Wilyer Abreu in right field, and of course Machado Meyer, who they just signed to a massive $120+ million extension in the middle of last year. So Jarren Duran's time with Boston could be coming to an end sooner than later. So we learned a little about what the Sox are actually looking for, because the name has been dangled out there pretty much all offseason, even a little bit at the trade deadline as well, when Boston wasn't totally sure if they were going to be in contention for the playoffs in 2025. And they've only heated up here now over the past couple of weeks here. So we learned here from, I believe it was Jeff Passan as well, that Boston is seeking a front of the rotation starting pitcher in a trade for Duran. However, Passan added that no team has been willing to offer such a pitcher for the Red Sox outfielder at this point. There have been a few teams speculated as potential candidates to land Duran in a trade this offseason. The Royals have seemed to be the most linked to Duran in trade talks. Kansas City thought Boston's asking price was, quote, too high. It was later reported by the Athletics' Ken Rosenthal that the Royals were under the impression they'd have to give up all-star pitcher Cole Ragans for Duran. So there it is, guys. Boston is looking for a front of the rotation starting pitcher for 3 years of Jarren Duran. I think that's ludicrous. I think this could be a case of them just trying to set the bar very high and see if they can get something close to it, maybe find a desperate team. But I don't think you're getting a front of the rotation pitcher for Duran. The starting pitcher market is ludicrous, insanely expensive right now. That is noted by Passan and by Ken Rosenthal in here. And here's actually another quote here from Passan that says, considering the return the Rays got on Shane Baz, teams are going to be that much more emboldened to price starting pitchers very aggressively, even with the paucity of good bats left beyond the very top of the free agent market. So essentially talking about the deal that the Orioles did with the Rays a couple of days ago, or I'm sorry, I guess it was about 2 weeks ago, where they got Shane Baz. Baltimore ended up giving up 4 prospects and a draft pick, and 2 of them were in the Orioles top 10 of their farm system. So I'm sorry, guys, the camera's going a little wonky right now. It comes in and out, right? Anyway, case in point here, starting pitching is very, very expensive right now, not just in terms of dollars with free agents, but also on the trade market as well. In the case here of Jarren Duran, but I don't think Boston is getting a frontline starting pitcher. To ask for Cole Reagans is just insane. And I don't know what Kansas City's farm system looks like and where they are in terms of developing and having more reinforcements for their starters on the way. You know, they might have 2-3 good guys ready to come up right now. And so it might be reasonable to ask for Cole Reagans, but I would not do that trade if I was Kansas City. And I can understand why they backed away from the table there. That being said, I don't see how the Mets could possibly help Boston in this case. And I'm also a little confused why Boston is so steadfast on wanting to find a front of the line rotation type of pitcher. You've got a really solid rotation there already. And for whatever reason, they want to keep adding to it, even though they just traded for Sonny Gray. They got Bello in there, who's a really quality number 3 at worst. So I'm a little confused why Boston is seeking that. I mean, obviously they don't want to cash in for anything less than what they think Duran is truly worth. But I don't necessarily know that's exactly what Boston should be looking for right now. I would say maybe some bullpen help, maybe a power hitting third baseman, since they don't seem to want to open their pockets and just simply go out and pay Alex Bregman. We know a lot of Red Sox fans are super disappointed that they didn't get Pete Alonso. So, I mean, I would be trying to cash in Jarren Duran for a power hitting corner infielder if I were the Red Sox. Now, if that were the case, maybe the Mets could find a way to package Mark Vientos and Brandon Sprode and one other name from the top 10 or 15 of their system. And that might be something to get Boston interested. I still think that's probably not going to be what they're looking for, but that's a way that maybe the Mets could find themselves their future left fielder, a guy that's had really good numbers over the past couple of years. And even in a down season in 2025, was still very solid. 16 homers, 41 doubles, 80 plus RBIs. The OPS leaves a little bit to be desired. It was in the 740s, but still a solid year for Jarren Duran, who's also a speedster. And though he graded out defensively in left field this past season, has pretty much been a positive defender in both left and in center field for the rest of his career. So something was going on there in 2025. I don't know if these trade rumors were creeping into his head. Maybe a change of scenery would see him revert back to his MVP caliber form that we saw in 2024. But Duran is definitely someone I'm interested in. I just don't know if the Mets have the pieces to make a trade with the Boston Red Sox based on this reporting where they're looking for a frontline starting pitcher. The Mets obviously don't, number one, have one of those unless you're counting Nolan McLean, who's not going anywhere. And number two, even if the Mets did have a guy like that, they're desperate for starting pitching themselves. They're not going to give it away just to fill a need in left field, especially when they have all this faith and belief in Carson Bench coming up at some point in 2026. So let me know what you guys think. How do you feel about Duran? Do you think it's an opportunity? What would be your package that you would send to the Red Sox, putting aside this whole idea of them seeking a frontline starting pitcher? Because like I just laid out, not something that the Mets would be able to accommodate for them. But I do think if they're willing to come off of that, asking price of looking for someone like that in their rotation, that the Mets and Red Sox could actually kind of match up pretty well in a deal to try and get Duran, who has 3 more years left. We're going to go through his numbers in a second, but I want to go back to the chat right over here. Go to Luca, rather have Willie, but he's left-handed bat. Yeah, no, I hear you on that, no doubt. Mike has Met says, Jonathan Santucci and Jet Williams for Jarren Duran and Brian Bello. I like it, but I am so nervous to give up Jonathan, man. I don't know. I like Bello. Bello has a pretty team-friendly contract. Like I said, he reminds me a lot of Ranger Suarez. He is a pretty consistent number 3. Some days he's going to pitch like an ace. Every now and again, of course, just like any pitcher, you're going to get a blow-up start, but I do like Bello a lot, and I do like Jarren Duran. I think that's going to be a little too much on my end, if I'm being honest with you. For 3 years of Duran, that is enticing, no doubt about it. That's a very good proposal, my guys, Mets. Jonathan Santucci, Jet Williams for Jarren Duran and Brian Bello. I mean, I don't know who says no in that trade because it's pretty damn even. The Mets are given the Red Sox are giving, that is a pretty damn good trade suggestion from you there. I can't even give you an answer, to be honest, right now. Blast Radius, get Bellinger. I mean, that's probably the simplest way. Armand, what is up, by the way? Sorry, I didn't see that just till now. Armand, what is up, man? How you doing? Appreciate you tuning in, Armand. Yeah, Blast Radius, just get Bellinger, right? Sign him to be your left fielder to start the year. Sign him to start the season in center field. Figure out if Carson Bench is a better left or center fielder. Move Bellinger to the other corner outfield spot. Put him at first base. He could DH now and then. I mean, Cody Bellinger is such a good fit for this team. I know that the Mets are not going to go past 4 years for him. I would almost all but guarantee that the Mets will not give Bellinger a 5-year deal. And it stings, and I'd like it to happen. I'm not saying that that's the right move by the Mets not to give him that, but I feel pretty confident in saying that the Mets are not going to go past 5 years on Bellinger. They wouldn't go to 5 years on Pete. They would hardly even go to 3 years on Pete Alonso. Obviously, Bellinger, far superior defender at multiple positions than Pete. But I just don't think this is something that interests David Stearns, is paying long-term deals to guys in their 30s. Even just to get out from the last 2 years of Nimmo's contract, he was willing to take on these 3 years of Marcus Semien. But at the very least, you're getting Gold Glove defense, at least based on what he did the past couple of seasons. Hopefully that holds up, right? But I just don't think this is really in David Stearns' DNA to go past 4 years on a guy that, yeah, is not old, really. Let's be honest, 30, 31, right? But old in baseball terms, at least according to his philosophy. So it is the easy fix, though. I will give you that. Power bat, put in there. Corner in, outfielder, center field, pretty much all 3 positions out there, plus first base. I'm with you, man. Let's see, Armand. There is a report that teams have called the Red Sox about Bello. Yeah, and I mean, look, that's why I am a little befuddled that Red Sox want a frontline starting pitcher when I think they already have a really good rotation as it stands right now. But you know, they got Garrett Crochet. They just acquired Sonny Gray. I am a little surprised that they really are looking to get a frontline starting pitcher. I feel like Garrett Crochet is your ace, right? Like you want to have a 1A, 1B, no doubt about it. But I mean, it's pretty hard to trade for that, even with Duran being one of those guys dangled out there as, a return in that package. But let's see. Felix says, because they're winners and they go to the playoffs, if we had that mentality, we would get further. I'm not sure who you're talking about. Maybe the Red Sox you're talking about, Felix. E. Moreau, let's go Mets. Trust your homegrown players. Don't give away the foreign players, the gamble on players that can't handle City Field. Hey, we will see, man. We are going to see a youth movement here this upcoming season. I think we're going to see a lot of Carson Bench. I think we're going to see a lot of Jet Williams as far as the position players go, as long as they are not dealt and traded away in other packages. And I think as far as the starting pitchers, you're going to see Nolan McLean obviously basically be your opening day starter, your number 1. We will see what happens with Sprout and Song. They may begin the season in AAA, depending on what else the Mets do here in the offseason as far as acquiring pitchers for the rotation and what happens with the current group of veterans. And then in the bullpen, I think we're going to see some names as well. I think you're going to see Dylan Ross. I think there's going to be a point in the season we see Will Watson and maybe even Jack Weniger as well. So yes, there are going to be some young players from the Mets farm system graduating and hopefully making a very positive impact at Citi Field for the orange and blue. Abe, what's up? He says, Mets, please please trade Vientos. All right. So we got someone that wants Vientos gone. Interesting. All right. Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm torn on Vientos, man. I see those 2024 home runs. Then I see what he did last year, flailing at that slider away, striking out on 3 pitches. And I'm like, I don't know what to make of Vientos anymore. And he's obviously not a quality third baseman. So it's very concerning and a little confusing what to do with Mark Vientos at this point. I guess if the season began right here today, you would have him either at first base or as your designated hitter if you needed to go field a team right now. So yeah, I don't know. We will see. I think that like I said in the beginning of the stream, I think the Mets fans have never been more divided than we are right now during this offseason. And I think the same is true about Mark Vientos, right? You got half the fan base that says, you can't let him go. Look what he did 2 years ago. And then you have the other half saying that was a fluke. He's never going to repeat that. He can't play defense. He's got to go. So, I mean, just a microcosm of this entire Mets universe we're in right now. And I look toward Mark Vientos as kind of that, like, that piece, of the same kind of ilk. Let's see. Caden Mets. Wait, NBA joined the stream, but have you talked about any Mets relief targets through trade yet? I have not yet, but we could do that right now. Give me a second to get through here. But Mets relief targets through trade yet? I don't know of anybody that's really on the market, to be totally honest with you, but we could do a little bit of research here and I can look into it. We can also go back to the free agent list and take a look. I do still have the Rand's numbers up, so I'll run through those real quick after I finish the chat. Then we will start looking at some of the other relief pitchers that are both available as free agents and maybe some trade ones, and then we can round it out from there. I'm going to just check Discord real quick, see if we do have any callers in here. It doesn't look like it, but guys, if you do want to get in here and you do want to be a part of the stream, come into my Discord. The link to that is in the description of the video down below. And you can just go into the waiting room and then I will bring you in when I am ready to take calls. To this point, nobody in there, so we're just going to close that for right now. If you do end up doing that, go ahead, shoot me a message in the chat so I know that you're in there and I could go back and check. Let's see. Caden says, yeah, my camera is glitchy. Sorry, we're having a little bit of difficulties here in this makeshift studio for today. You know what? Part of that is because of Discord actually being open. So I'm going to close it right now. So if you do call in, then let me know. Let's see. Armand, Red Sox say no to that deal. Wow, Armand, you don't think the Red Sox would say yes to Jonah Tong, to who else was in that? Santucci and to Jet Williams? I don't know. I thought it was pretty close. I thought it was a pretty good suggestion. Sorry, guys. Don't worry. The camera will be back in just a minute or so. I can see it already coming back here. I'm going to just get a hard wire from the an Ethernet plugged into this laptop one of these days because this is just getting too old. I'm trying to do too much with sharing the screen and, you know, going back and forth between all the tabs. So I'm going to make sure that we get this corrected here, but I appreciate you guys being in the stream anyway. And hopefully you can still hear my voice pretty well. And we'll get back to sharing my screen as soon as possible here, but I'll close some of these tabs and we'll see if that'll help anything out. But I think we closed everything on Framber Valdez, right? I think we already discussed that one ad nauseum to this point, but let's go back to the chat here. We got Armand. I would like to random for him to play, but don't have what the Red Sox want for return. Yeah, if they want a frontline starting pitcher, like I said, obviously no, the Mets do not have what they need. There's no doubt about that. That we know for a fact. Let's see. Armand or Adrian Ramirez, Red Sox too smart to do that deal. Yeah, I think that they would definitely probably say no, but in the same sense, it's like, okay, but Jonah Tong, like, that could be your frontline starter, right? You know, I don't know. Tatsuya, my Wi-Fi gods, please be kind to Tony. I'm sorry, Tatsuya. I'm trying here, man. I hope you guys can still hear me. I see it going in and out. PJB, Paul Revere, is Tony in the Matrix? I wish. Yeah, right. Green pill, red pill, blue pill. Phil DeLuca, bring the kids. Tatsuya, my, your thoughts on Lindor's wife being a part of the Mondani inaugural committee? I'll just be honest. I don't have any thoughts on it. And, yeah, I'm going to just leave it at that. I really don't. I don't do politics, and, you know, I'm not going to start doing it now. So all I care about is the Mets, and the Mets playing well. So that's really it. But Phil DeLuca, no, you can't let Beatty go. No, Beatty's not going anywhere. It doesn't seem like, you know, he had a really strong second half, obviously, and I'm thinking that he's going to be getting the majority of the reps at third base this upcoming season. Sorry, guys, I'm still working on this, trying to get the stream back going and healthy here, but obviously you could see the Wi-Fi is not being super cooperative for me here today. Armand, Tony, I'm setting up to call in the Discord. Okay, that could make this even worse, Armand, if I'm being honest with you. Let me just make sure I can get the quality of this going back up again before I go back to trying to take your calls. I'm going to give it a shot. The Green Mystique out of nowhere trade for Jose Ramirez, Lindor and Soto connection, former teammates with both. When was Jose Ramirez teammates with Juan Soto? Am I missing something? I don't believe I am. Ramirez is... Unless you're talking about some time. All right, look, I can see the quality is improving. We should be back now. Ramirez has spent his entire career with Cleveland. So unless you're talking about like in the Dominican or something, does that be the only time that they were teammates? Obviously, Lindor is Puerto Rican, so it wouldn't have been all together. But yes, of course, Lindor with Ramirez as members of the then Cleveland Indians. But I don't think Soto has ever played with Jose Ramirez. Yeah, I would love that. But I don't think that Cleveland is looking to trade Ramirez. We have heard many times that he is a Cleveland guy through and through. He signed that contract extension with them. Yeah, maybe I'm gonna just guess maybe that Jose Ramirez is Dominican, and if that's the case, then yeah, he would have played with Juan Soto. So yes, in that case, they would have been teammates in that opportunity. But I have heard from Cleveland fans over the years. I have heard from reports on their beat reporters and statements from Ramirez himself that he does not want to leave Cleveland. So haven't even heard a thing about that this offseason. So I don't think that's super likely at this point. But all right, you know what? Let's give it a shot here. Let's see real quick though before we go to Discord. Armand, yeah, J-Ram and Soto teammates in the DR World Baseball Classic. Got it. Okay, there we go. Italian Stallion says, hi Tony, we need Framber Valdez. Yes, we do. I'd like it, but on our terms, man. I know we hate hearing it. The Mets only want guys on their terms, but man, 6-7 years for a 32-year-old is concerning for sure. As much as we need that kind of an arm, it is concerning to be shelling out for a guy like that may not hold up even 2 to 3 years into that type of contract. So we will see, but it is very interesting that they are, still being linked to him. Free Mystique, I'm shattering your dreams on who, man? I'm sorry, I don't mean to do that, but I don't want to be a dream crusher here. Valdez and Pivetta. Pivetta's an interesting name too, because I don't know what's going to happen with him, but he's kind of got that poison pill of a contract where he can opt in after this year if it's really bad, and then he could do it again for 2028 2028. So I'm a little concerned on Nick Pivetta, if I'm being honest, and I still think Padres are going to be seeking like some high end type of prospects because of the season he's coming off of. So if it was just a salary dump, then I would absolutely say, yeah, no doubt about it. Let's go get Pivetta and see what it costs. But I think it's going to be more than just a salary dump. So, all right, guys, we're going to give this a shot here. We're going to go to our first call here on Discord. Hopefully this does not ruin the entire stream, not because of the guy who's speaking, because he is just absolutely amazing. But hopefully that trying to do all these different programs here during the stream doesn't screw things up. But let's go to my unofficial statistician guy that is always in my streams and of all the other Mets fan content creator streams, and we all appreciate him so much. Armand, you are in the stream. What is going on, my man? Hey Armand, what do you got, my man? Okay. Sure. Okay. And so Armand, I don't know that our feed from your audio was actually going through just now. So essentially what Armand is saying to us, I'm going to repeat it just in case it didn't go through as I try to work on this fix, is that the CBA being, potentially an issue next year would mean that players won't be receiving that year of service time in 2027. And that might be keeping some teams from being willing to hand out significant offers to free agents this offseason. Do I have that basically correct, Armand? Gotcha. Okay. And so again, Armand, great stuff right there. And I didn't have it all functioning right, as you know, we're in this makeshift studio here this week. So I'm going to take you out, but I appreciate you so much. I'm going to send you a DM here in a little bit, Armand. I got to tell you something pretty cool. But Armand, a great caller as always, and a great viewer. But unfortunately, the Discord not cooperating here for us, as so much stuff is not here today. But we're still here and we're doing it live. Basically, what Armand is saying is that because of the 2027 potential lockout, that teams are handing out signing bonuses in terms of free agents right now, as opposed to guaranteeing them more money for 2027. That's what players are seeking, because they'll get that money in cash right up front. Whereas in 2027, with there being the lockout, it's obviously, or potential lockout, there is a concern about the players getting paid in that situation, because if there's a lockout, there is no payment to players, obviously. And so that is something that could be affecting the way that the free agent market is going right now. We have seen a couple of players sign with signing bonuses this offseason, despite having long-term deals. So yeah, no, I definitely think that is a great point by you, Armand. And I wish that my guys here, the viewers, could have got to hear you explain it a lot more succinctly than I just did. But I was trying to figure all this out, the sound settings, while also trying to make sure that I was understanding what you were saying. But I do believe I kind of got the gist of it right there. But I appreciate you tuning in. Sorry, guys, Discord not being super cooperative here today. But thank you very much, Armand, as always, for being a great viewer, being a great caller, always being on top of the best information possible and helping me with the streams. Caden Metz says Valdez for 3 with opt-outs is great. Yeah, for the Mets, no doubt. But Framber Valdez at 32 years old does not want to sign a 3-year deal. Think about, wants minimum of 5 years. Take him through his age 37 season, right? So yeah, I love the idea of Valdez on a 3-year deal with opt-outs. Absolutely. Yes, sign me up tomorrow, right? But Framber Valdez wants that long-term security. All it takes is for him to need surgery, Tommy John, have some type of issue, have a bad season or two, and he may not never get a crack at free agency ever again, and definitely not one that would be as lucrative as the one that he is, you know, currently in at this very moment, where, again, I admit he's coming off a tremendous 4-year run with Houston, being one of the top starting pitchers in baseball, but Father Time is undefeated. And so this is his time to strike while the iron is hot. So I think he's going to be looking for something much bigger and longer than just a 3-year pact. Guys, like I said, be sure to leave this video a like, subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Trying to get to that 4K goal by the end of 2025. We're just 100 subscribers away, and we got 5 days left to do it. So if you're not subscribed already, do it now. Daily Mets content, keep you up to date on everything they do this winter. And send this to a friend, send this to a Mets fan friend, a baseball fan friend, spread the word. We do it all here. So thank you so much to you guys. And of course, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to all of you and yours. I hope you've enjoyed what is hopefully a very nice kind of mellow downtime part of your year. But we're keep going and keep live and keep rolling here on the channel, ladies and gentlemen. So let's go back. Tomb Raiders 44, love the name, by the way. I believe the only way we get Belly or Tucker is to sign a guy with 10 million or less contract, Peralta. So the only way they could get Bellinger or Tucker is to sign a guy with 10 million or less contract, ... Peralta. So you're saying try to trade for Freddie Peralta, and that would keep an avenue open where the Mets could also sign Tucker or Bellinger. I mean, yeah, look, I don't think money is an issue for the Mets. I know everybody wanted to freak out about the tweet last week from Steve Cohen, you know, or really the report from Mike Puma, where he projected the payroll to be between 310 and 320 million, to which Cohen clapped back, right? And said, no, it'll be higher than that when you don't factor in, you know, waiver acquisitions and trade deadline pickups. It'll be closer to the 350 range, right? But if there were young players on the market this year, like a Juan Soto or a Yamamoto again, the Mets would be all over those guys, but they are not out there. We are talking guys in their 30s or very rapidly approaching their 30s that are looking for extremely long-term deals. So I don't think it's a matter of the Mets not wanting to spend money anymore. It's a matter of the Mets wanting to spend money wiser, not handing it out to the guys that are going to become shells of themselves within the first 3 to 4 years of that contract. And then you're left holding the bag for the final 3 or 4 more years after that. So it's not a matter of the Mets not wanting to spend money. It's a matter of them wanting to spend it the right way. And to be honest, it just wasn't the sexiest free agency this year, right? I mean, Bo Bichette might be the one guy, position player wise, that I'd be willing to break the bank for. And even there are warts on his game, right? He's not a very good defensive player, right? You know, he is going to move off the shortstop, or at least now is willing to, but you know, he's 27 approaching. He'll be entering his age 28 season. He's projected to get $23 million a year. Yeah, I would do that for sure. I've even said, look, even Bregman, who's about to be 32, I would sign him, put him at third base for the next 3 years, given a club option for a fourth year, and move Brett Beatty over to first base, right? I would even be willing to do that. I still think Bregman is a really good defender, but you know, I think that the Mets are just trying to spend their money wise. In the case of Kyle Tucker, you know, he came into this offseason expecting a 10-year, $400 million deal or something like that. He's not going to get that now. I've said many times, 7 years, $240, front load at $40 million, give him opt out after the first year. If he opts in for the remainder, he's still getting $34 million average annual value on that contract. But I think that's a sneaky kind of smart way that the Mets could try to land Kyle Tucker for at least 2026, if not beyond, depending on if he wants to retest the market after that. So it's going to take a little bit of creativity, no doubt about it. They're going to have to, you know, think of some smart ways to try and fill out this roster. But you know, Eugenio Suarez, is that someone that interests you at nearly 35 years old at $15 million projected market value for the next couple of years, right? A guy that's never been a good defensive third baseman, so you wouldn't put him there. He's played a little bit of first base. It's not much better. Or do you just want to make him a DH on a team that's kind of filled with designated hitters already? And who knows how much longer is he going to hold up as a 35-year-old? How's his bat speed, right? Stuff like that. So it's no perfect formula, that is for sure. Let's go back to the chat, Armand. I believe teams are freezing out the current free agent market until February when spring training starts to get players on opt-out deals. Yes, that is a good point. So that is what Armand was essentially saying in his call to Discord that I apologize you guys didn't get to hear, but Armand was excellent in explaining that. Yeah, that would make sense, right? With the impending lockout, right? Get them on those player opt-out deals. That's part of it as well. And maybe a little bit of a signing bonus to, you know, kind of put the cherry on top for them to really just get them finally to a new home before the 2026 season starts. So it could be a long drawn out free agency winter off season for Major League Baseball, even more so than it has been in recent years. And it has been very long and drawn out for the last several seasons. Sal says sign Tucker and trade for Buxton and Ryan. Bam. I wish it was that easy, man. Sal, I wish it was that easy, man. It doesn't sound like Joe Ryan's going anywhere. The Twins have made it kind of clear they are not looking to trade him. Same for Byron Buxton. So unfortunately, I don't think either of those guys are going, but Tucker's out there, man. And I think his market has kind of started to fall off. I think that he's really probably only had conversations with the Blue Jays, who we have heard are willing to give him a pretty significant deal. But at this point, I don't think any other team is really talking to Kyle Tucker. And so the Blue Jays have probably drawn a line in the sand, which is far below what Tucker was expecting or asking for. And they're just simply not going to negotiate against themselves. They'll say, go to another team, go find a better offer, let us know. And that's kind of like the holding pattern that Kyle Tucker is in right now and his camp as far as trying to find a new home in the future. So I like the idea of Tucker, but I don't know. We'll see, man. Maybe this is an opportunity where the Mets can pounce, right? You know, like I said, get a little creative, sweeten that pot a little bit. Front load some of this deal. Give him $50 million for 2026. Who cares, right? Give him an opt-out after that. Average annual value all comes out the same if he opts back in for the remainder of that contract. It's all depending on how long the Mets are willing to commit to a guy that is going to spend the majority of this contract in his 30s. You saw it with Juan Soto, a little bit different, coming out at 26 as a free agent. They would have done it with Yamamoto, a little different. He was 25 years old coming over from Japan, but the Mets have made it clear they do not want to pay the back end of the contracts when those players are starting to fall off the hill if they have not already. So let's go back here. Armand is amazing. Sal, Twins not trading Buxton or Joe. I don't think so either, to be honest. Anthony Ranger says Tucker's going to sign with the Blue Jays soon, I think. There you go. You're just talking about it. I wouldn't be surprised if one of these nights we just get a Jeff Passan bomb. Tucker to Blue Jays. 8 years, 310 million, right? I mean, he wanted 10 years for 400 million. I think 8 for 310 is probably the max he might get. And even in that case, again, I think it'd be a matter of the Blue Jays simply negotiating against themselves, because I think any other team is really looking to give him that kind of contract that he's been seeking since the winter began. But I wouldn't be surprised to just hear it. Hopefully you can hear me now, Phil. I think everything is good on my end, so hopefully you can hear me, guys. I think someone else would have said something by now, but Armand's amazing. Says the Mets only sign Gino Suarez if they trade Vientos. Yeah, and I mean, it's at the point there where it's like, all right, well, you're giving up on 4 years of Vientos. You don't have any faith that he's gonna come back and maybe be what he was in 2024 again. And if that's the case, you want to spend millions of dollars, potentially 15 million average annual value, like he's projected to get here according to Spotrax, on Eugenio Suarez to be a permanent DH? Or do you want to maybe see what Mark Vientos could be at first base? Do you want to see if Vientos could, maybe turn it around a little bit at third, which I really don't think is the case. But, we're talking about 34-year-old, almost 35-year-old Eugenio Suarez there. So let's do this. Let's take a look at some of the free agent relievers as well. I think we kind of did everything as far as starting pitchers and some of the available bats. Let's see who is available still to this point in terms of the relief pitcher market. And see if anybody would make sense here. Nick Martinez, 35 years old, projected for $14 million. Sir Anthony Dominguez is still out there. Hey, he was hucking for the Blue Jays in this past World Series, right? Had some big moments for them, but we know all about Sir Anthony Dominguez from his time with the Phillies. Not someone that I am particularly interested in. Chris Paddock, Pete Alonso's old buddy, right? He actually took him deep out in Detroit this past year, did Pete Alonso. But Chris Paddock is out there after really having a fall off from, that rookie season when him and Pete were duking it out for Rookie of the Year. Pete kind of silenced that one pretty quickly, if you guys remember. Really not a whole lot of sexy names here on this list. Paul Sewald, our old pal, is available at now almost 36 years old. That is crazy to think Paul Sewald is almost 36 years old. Danny Colomb was someone that I really wanted the Mets to take a look at during the trade deadline. He was with Minnesota before getting traded to the Rangers at the deadline. So Danny Colomb could be somebody that I might be interested in. And I'll actually take a look at his numbers really quick. Let's take a look at the chat, though, really quick. Sal says, who's the big move Passan said the Mets are getting? Well, he didn't actually specifically say anybody in particular. He didn't say, I believe the Mets are going to do this or do that. But he did say that he would expect the Mets to either make a big trade or make a big signing, or possibly do both. Didn't say anything about it other than that. He just was replying to somebody on Threads who basically was like, all right, what's the deal? And that was his response was, and I'll read it to you here again in case you're just joining, but he said, this is almost a wholesale jettisoning, and now David Stearns gets a chance to rebuild in his vision. Historically, it has been very disciplined and very practical and very not splashy. And while I absolutely expect the Mets to get a big free agent, make a big trade, or both, I don't inherently dislike a team taking its time. So again, look, it's very evergreen. It could mean anything, but to say he expects them to get a big free agent, i.e. Valdez, Bellinger, Tucker, maybe even Bregman, Okamoto might fall into that category as well, kind of, right? Tatsuya Amai. And then for a trade, I mean, look, I don't know what's happening on the trade market right now. Could it be Jarren Duran? Not according to what Boston is seeking based on the report that we just read here on the stream. But, maybe Freddie Peralta is actually more available than we think. Maybe same for Joe Ryan in Minnesota, right? But these are a couple of the names that we've heard throughout all the offseason that have either been kind of rumored to potentially be available and also would make sense for the Mets. So of all those names I just listed, I wouldn't be surprised if at the very least one of those is on the Mets roster sometime before this offseason ends. When that is, as far as it happening, I don't know. We will see. It has been dragging on. Let's see. Armand says Nick Martinez is a great swingman, could make a few starts or be moved into the rotation due to injury. All right, well, let's take a look then real quick. Yes, and another good point by Armand. Tatsuya Amai's deadline is on January 2nd, so that is rapidly approaching. We are, about 7 days away or so? So Amai will have to make a decision on a team here. Otherwise, he goes back to Japan, essentially, and has to go return to whatever team he was pitching with in the Nippon League. So that'll be interesting to see what happens there with Tatsuya Amai. I personally, again, I'm very interested in him. I'd like to see it happen. I'd be willing to take a little bit of a risk on him, somewhere in the $20 to $25 million average annual value range. We know what Dylan Cease just got, basically 30 plus million per season with the Blue Jays, for a guy that's, obviously proven he can pitch in the big leagues, but how consistently at a high quality level, I don't know to this point. I feel like you might be willing to kind of take a little bit of a gamble on Tetsuya Yamai as well. Guy that is graded out really well, despite there being some question marks about his ability to transition here to Major League Baseball. Let's see, Armand, maybe after they sign the free agent market picks up. Yeah, no doubt. Real quick, I'm going to look at Nick Martinez and we're going to look at Danny Colome. And then I think we're going to wrap this one up, ladies and gents. But leave this video a like if you guys have not already. Really appreciate it. Go share this with some baseball fans, some Mets fans in your life. Go post it to their Facebook. Send it to them in a text. Trying to get to that 4K subscriber goal by the end of 2025. We are just under 100 away, I believe, now at this point. So we are gaining some steam. All thanks to you guys. Appreciate y'all being here with me. All right, so here is Nick Martinez. Hey, a Fordham product. Okay, I kind of like that. Originally from Miami, but went to Fordham. We love to hear it. Bronx boy. Last year, 4.45 earned run average. What did he do? He made 26 starts, but also made 14 relief appearances, and he's pretty much done that throughout his entire career. Wow. Played in Japan from 2018 to 2021. I did not realize that. I do recall him coming up with Texas a while back, almost 10 years ago now, but yeah, this is actually something that would really fit the Mets well. And David Stearns actually even said this in the beginning of the offseason, that swingmen would be something that he's kind of interested in bringing onto this roster. With Cincinnati this past season, 26 starts, had 40 appearances overall. So he went 165 and 2/3 innings and a 4.45 earned run average. Obviously not that great, not that terrible. It was a 4.33 FIP. So slightly lower, right? But I mean, you could have taken this, right, more than you would have liked to have seen some of the names that they used out of the bullpen this year, like Brandon Waddell and on and on and on, right? The year before that was worth a 4 WAR in 142 innings, made 16 starts, and at whatever the difference between 16 and 42, I guess that would be like what, 24 relief appearances, something like that, 28. I don't know. I'm not good at math. 26 relief appearances and 16 starts, a 3.10 earned run average, 3.21 FIP. So pretty similar. The guy is not like trying to do anything with smoke and mirrors ever. It's always pretty consistent. Even the year before that with San Diego, only 9 starts, but 63 appearances overall, had a 3.43 earned run average, but a 3.92 FIP. So ever so slightly higher. But over the last 3 years with San Diego and with Cincinnati, overall has made 51 starts, appeared in about 3 times as many overall games, about 145 overall appearances, and has a 3.72 earned run average and a FIP of 3.84, ERA plus of 119. I mean, these are solid numbers. These are really, really solid numbers. I don't know where the Mets would kind of project him to be. I can't imagine they would imagine him, see him in the rotation unless they're going to do the 6-man rotation idea. And then maybe Sprout or Tong prove that they're ready from AAA. They assume his spot in the rotation and they bump Nick Martinez to the bullpen, and same situation. You could bring him in as a spot starter for a doubleheader situation after a rain out, or just in the case where somebody does get injured or needs to get skipped one time through the rotation. So I like the idea. I like the idea a lot. Let's see. Back to the chat real quick. Brad Guy, what would the team look like if they sucked in the first half and traded Alonso, Diaz, Nimmo, McNeil? Farm would be loaded. It would be, right? Isn't that funny how had the Mets just inverse the way they played in 2025? My goodness, if they did have a fire sale the way we essentially just did with this core here in the offseason, my goodness, they would have really came away pretty good if they had traded away those guys. But obviously that would be devastating, and could it have been any more devastating than the way it ended this year and then what has transpired here so far in the first 2 months this winter? I don't think so, but yeah, you're right about that. Let's see, Jake Brown live, what's up, my man? Jake Brown, great guy, does some really great work on Twitter, TikTok, on YouTube himself as well. Go check out Jake Brown's stuff. He does an amazing job. What's up, Jake? Good to have you in here, my man. Let's see. Armand Alonso and Diaz would net the Mets prospects to add to the farm system. Nimmo and McNeil, not so much. No, Nimmo, of course, because of the contract that he had, obviously weighed him down a lot. But Pete would have definitely killed it for them. And of course, Diaz, my goodness. I mean, look what the Phillies gave up for Jarren Duran, right? You know, and look at all the guys that the Mets ended up giving up for some of their pieces. You know, Mason Miller's in a whole different stratosphere, so I won't even like pretend like he was someone that you can compare him to in terms of the trade market. But all right, last thing we're going to do here, just real quick, take a look at Danny Kalum. He might be an option as well. He pitched with the Twins last year. He was someone that I highlighted at the deadline that I was hoping that the Mets might take a shot at. He was a lefty. They obviously traded for Gregory Soto with varying results. But Kalum did get traded to the Texas Rangers and did not fare so well after getting sent over there. Was excellent with Minnesota before that, but not very good with Texas after the trade. So first half of the season with Minnesota, 1.16 earned run average over 40 appearances, that over 31 innings, at an ERA plus 371. I mean, I know it's a small sample size because he is a reliever, but my goodness, this is why I wanted the Mets to look into him. And I think Texas thought they might be getting an upgrade in their bullpen. Unfortunately, not the case after going to the Lone Star State. Over 15 appearances with the Rangers, gave up 7 earned runs. I'm sorry. It was, 7 earned runs. I mean, this is like essentially Ryan Helsley for the Mets. This was the Texas Rangers version of Ryan Helsley. Elite numbers with his previous team, came over and totally spit the bit. Gave up 3 homers during that time. It was ugly. A 5.25 earned run average over those 15 appearances with Texas. But he is a free agent now. Obviously that hit his stock a little bit entering free agency this winter. But he's a little bit older, obviously 36 years old. The Mets don't really need another lefty in the bullpen, assuming that that AJ Minter is going to come back and have no issues from that torn lat surgery that he had. But again, like I said earlier in the stream, I am too scarred as a Mets fan to just believe that everything is going to go fine in the bullpen. How many years have we said that, only for an important guy to go down within the first 2 months of the season, and the Mets are left scrambling, trying to fill in the gaps? I have nightmares about Scott Schoenweiss pitching because of all the injuries the Mets sustained in the 2007 season, right? I know you're all right there with me, but man, it's a long marathon of an off season. Still, we got a lot of time left, but there are still also a lot of moves that the Mets need to make. This offseason is not complete. The Mets will spend money if they deem it worthy of spending money on, if they deem it a worthy, smart investment. You don't think that Steve Cohen made all these billions and billions upon billions of dollars from making stupid and irrational decisions? Come on, guys. I know we're a little down on him right now. I know we're down on David Stearns because we just basically had this Band-Aid, this comfort blanket ripped away from us, right? Of the old core of Pete and and Nimmo and Edwin Diaz. But I do have faith in this front office and in this owner, even if it's going to take a little bit of time, even if it's a little bit of pain right now in the moment. I do believe in this team's vision and that we are going to have a really solid team for 2026. Let's see how this plays out still. But real quick, I'm going to go to the chat here. Master Flip, what is up? Master Flip is one of the best Twitter accounts on Mets Twitter. You guys got to go follow him right now. He does some of the funniest stuff on there. Smart Mets fan, smart baseball fan, makes some of the most fire uniform edits and jersey swaps, so go check him out. Master Flip out on Twitter as well. Let's see, Jake Brown saying Yandy Diaz, Framber Valdez, Buxton trade, saying shed the 15 million and money all works. I have been a proponent for Yandy Diaz for so long now. I've been trying to get Yandy here to Queens, man. Me and Master Flip actually been talking about it. I'm glad we now got Jake Brown in on it too. Yandy would be amazing to get in Queens. We'll see what happens, man. They have $12 million on him. He's 34 years old. We know they just traded low. The Tampa Bay Rays did, and we heard they might have been making a run at Ketel Marte. That's why I made that trade proposal where the Mets were sending some stuff to Arizona, and we were getting Yandy Diaz back in that trade as part of a package. So I love the idea of Yandy for sure. Framber, I like the idea. What's it going to cost? How long is he going to have to be here? That's the concerning part, but they definitely need a frontline starting pitcher without a doubt. Let's see who else. Bobby Baseball, maybe time to do a full rebuild and work from the ground up with Soto. Feel like this half rebuild isn't working, but stuck with Lindor. I don't know about a full rebuild. I don't think so. I mean, I think Lindor is still only a year away from playing at an MVP level. This past season was very up and down, obviously. Still finished with some really solid numbers. Again, I think that toe that he broke in Los Angeles really did affect him in the second half at varying times throughout the later portion of the season. But full rebuild, I'm not on board with that. I think we got some really good quality pieces coming up, and the Mets are going to just sprinkle in some quality additions of veteran players around this hopefully new core and nucleus that is coming up from the minor leagues around Soto, around Lindor while he's still here with the team. And I think we're going to really be happy with what we get here. Maybe not immediately, maybe not right now here today, but let's just wait, be patient about it. Jake Brown, snowstorm got me stuck inside tonight. Otherwise, I'd be local Jersey bars tonight. Hey, I'm sorry the snow ruined your night so much that you got to come and listen to my voice and look at this ugly mug. I'm sorry, Jake. Okay, I am so sorry. All right, I get it. I get it. You're just miserable to have to be watching this. I understand though. I completely do. Sal, go live after this. Brad, guys, stick to overpaying short-term contracts that Cohen's willing to with Verlander, Scherzer, them keeps you competitive, young, and farm loaded. If you stink, eat the contracts and you trade for prospects. Absolutely, 100%. 100%. And that was the philosophy those years ago with Scherzer and with Verlander, short-term, high AAV kind of deals. Now, unfortunately, guys in their late 20s, early 30s even that are hitting free agency are looking for long-term security. So those high AAV short-term deals don't usually work for guys that are looking for 5 to 6 years of a job, because that's literally what this is to them. Work. This is their livelihood, right? You know, we make fun of Anthony Rendon when he called it a job, but it's the truth, right? You give a guy a 2-year deal and then he gets hurt. Tommy John surgery is never the same again. He's out of a job 2 years after that contract ends, right? So I like the idea of the high AV short-term deals, but they are just very unique situations where they actually do work. And I think we're kind of in the middle of that. And it just happens to be a really terrible offseason for it to be the free agents that are available on the market this year, considering what the Mets are coming off of right now, right? So it's just rock and a hard place kind of thing. But hey, Jake, tell me I got great hair, dude. I appreciate it. You have a great set of hair. I can't deny that. Can't relate. Yeah, but you're way better. Everything else. So guys, you're the man. You're all great. I appreciate you all being here. This has been fun. We've gone on for almost 2 hours here. Unfortunately, not huge updates, right? We heard about the Passan thing. Maybe a big trade, maybe a big signing, maybe both. We heard that the Mets are still in on Framber Valdez. Tatsuya Amai's clock is ticking. January 2nd is the deadline for that. Kaz Akamoto, could he become available? Could he be an option for the Mets? I don't know, but we will find out together. Keep it tuned here to the channel. This is your place for daily Mets update, daily Mets content all winter long, the rest of this off season. If you want to know what's going on with the Mets, this is your place for it. So be sure to hit that subscribe button. Daily Mets content. I'm running out of steam, as you can tell. I'm repeating myself here now, but really appreciate y'all being here. Leave this video a like on your way out. Send this to a friend, a Mets fan in your life, a baseball fan in your life. Let's get to that goal of 4K subscribers by the end of 2025. 5 days left to do it. But I want to thank you all for tuning in. A very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and blessings to all of you and your family. And we will talk to you guys real soon. Peace.